everybody, welcome to the Budweiser All-Pro Series here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the 5-Hour Energy 301. And boy, oh boy, has it been a long time. I've gotten so sidetracked with many different things with like work and Xbox and some other stressful things I don't really want to bring up at this point. But I'm back trying to record this race. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it'll be an exciting battle. Pit stops. I will say this now. This track has a glitch in it. For some reason, cars will come down pit road numerous times for no reason, or they'll run out of gas, and it's just really hectic. Unfortunately, this is the only New Hampshire race I have, or New Hampshire track that I have. So if anybody out there happens to have a better New Hampshire track that runs well and doesn't have that glitch, feel free to shoot me that link. But anyways, so we're getting ready for 60 laps of racing around this racetrack. And it's going to be, hopefully, a good exciting one. I'm not alone. I'm being joined up here in the commentator's booth with Mr. NNSCRA himself, Seth Cole. Seth, thank you for joining me. And put those damn chips away.
I have put the chips away. It's great to be back here. Great to have the series back. I mean, I know it's 2025, but no better year to bring back the series. So,
yeah, right?
Looking forward to this race here at New Hampshire. A track that usually it seems to be a fuel strategy race, and also one of those few tracks out there that's a tire eater. So we're definitely going to see some strategy in this race, I think.
Yeah. Oh, come on. At least I'm not as bad as Dylan Poteet or Trent Dunham.
This is true. This is true.
I mean, hell,
But still, fact, 2025 is a great year.
Yeah, I mean, they took a year off. I just took a couple of months.
Yep.
Engines.
The command to fire the engines has been given. I'm going to throw it over to Mr. NNSCRA, who has a rundown of the point standings so far, with 4 races left until the chase.
Yeah, it's definitely very congested up near the top of the standings leaderboard, no doubt. Trent Dunham comes into this race the points leader, but he's only got 1 point separation between himself and the other 2 in the top 3. Rookies Andrew Davis and Joshua Sekuli only 1 point back each. You got Seth Cole there in 4th. Josh Drake in 5th. They're only 11 points back from the points lead. So really close battle we're going to see here as far as the top 5 in points. Then you got Charles Stanford, who's got 3 wins this year. He's climbed up to 6th. Carter Friesen sits there in 7th. He's been very consistent and has a win under his belt. And then Cole Deaver, O'Neal Baldwin, and Jonathan Zorlin, they're all looking for their first wins of the season. They complete your top 10. But, you know, the point standings, even when you look on down like into the top 20, there's really only a separation of maybe 60, 70, 80 points separation. That's not a whole lot with only 4 races remaining in the regular season.
That's right, and with the win you're in system in the chase, we're definitely gonna try to see if we can get. Green flag is out. We're underway here at New Hampshire. Everybody made it to the green flag as Jessica Shelton leads them off of turn number 2. Got Carson Gum right behind her.
Yeah, Jessica Shelton starting on the pole at a track where it's not that easy to pass. So starting track position, really important for that 94 team coming into this race 22nd in the standings with no wins. I mean, this is a big opportunity to maybe go coast to coast and clinch a spot in the chase.
It's true. It's very possible. If she can get through all the pit stops and everything as the battling is on behind her, Carson Gum can't exactly clear Carter Friesen for 2nd place.
Now, I see Josh Drake up here in the 66. He's caught in the high line right now. But, I mean, I'm going to be looking at maybe someone like Drake, maybe Trent Dunham, Charles Stanford. These guys come in with multiple wins already. So they know they're probably going to be represented in the chase for the championship. And we've already alluded to the fact that today's New Hampshire race is going to be a race of strategy. So if you're one of those guys that knows you're going to be in the playoffs regardless, would you maybe go outside the box, not do what everybody else is doing, play a different kind of strategy, and maybe try and pick up another win?
It's possible with nothing really to lose at this point.
Exactly.
I mean, how many people have wins in this season so far?
Give me a second. I'll go down the list and find out here. Right now, we currently have 9 different race winners this season.
9 winners with 4 races left. That means even if we have a new winner for the next four races, That's still going to leave, what, 3 or 4 spots to be filled with those who haven't won a race yet?
Pretty much. And so for those slots, if you're looking at that, you're looking at drivers like Seth Cole, who's the highest driver in the points, fourth in the standings without a win. We alluded to Cole Deaver, O'Neill Baldwin, Jonathan Zorlin, all inside the top 10 in points without a win. So, yeah, you want to be consistent for sure here in the final 4 races, but you got to think those drivers would certainly love to be able to pick up a win in the next upcoming races here at New Hampshire. You got Richmond that's coming up, Texas World next week. You know, that takes a lot of pressure not only off the driver but also off the team, because we talk about here that this is going to be a strategy race. Pit road is going to be a huge factor into who might win this event, and that puts pressure on the pit crews to put together a good pit stop.
Yes, it does, and it really does. We're looking here at Joshua Sekuli. Now, this guy, I think, is a really good contender for the championship. I mean, he's got to win, yes, so he's in the chase. But this guy, I mean, he has got to be Mr. Consistency. I mean, if you were to look at the point standings right next to him, you should see like top 5s and 10s, and he should have a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at his stats coming into this race, 4 top 5s, 8 top 10s, and the one thing that really points out to me as well, only 1 DNF finish. And another thing I remember, too, with a couple of races that I commentated earlier on this season with him, too, not only has he been Mr. Consistency, he's also been Mr. Right Place, Right Time, because a lot of times when we have big wrecks take place, he either finds his way to be able to slide through him or he's just ahead of him. So he's been able to position himself really well to be able to get those consistent finishes and not finish the day on the end of a tow hook.
That's very true. As you see up here, got Alfredo Faggio, Dylan Young, we got Jay Jefferson, Cody Smart, Patrick Smith, others. Kyle Matthews, who's coming into this race 41st in points, I think, out of 42.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he's 41st. He's only got 6-point advantage over William Brock, who's dead last in points. So it's been a very struggling year for him. As a matter of fact, Kyle Matthews still looking for his first top 5 of the season.
And speaking of William Brock, he's way more than 6 spots ahead of him. William Brock's in 10th place. So it looks like
William Brock.
Looks like Kyle Matthews is back to the bottom of the points list with how they run right now.
Yep, that would definitely be the case. You know, another thing I'm noticing here, too, at New Hampshire is you have these heavy braking zones into turn 1 and turn 3. When you're behind another driver, unless you're able to maybe go to the inside or outside of that driver, you're at the mercy of the driver ahead of you's braking zone. So for some of these guys that I'm seeing mid-pack that aren't maybe able to go 110% into the corner, these guys might be able to save a little bit of fuel and might be able to stretch this green flag run a little bit further than maybe, say, Jessica Shelton, Carson Gum, guys that are up there towards the front of the field.
That's true. It's very possible. Seth Cole just made a move on Josh Drake in the 66 car. He's going to bring the 14, looks like, of Andrew Davis with him. As we come back up towards the front here, the top 3, we got 3 manufacturers of the 4 in the Budweiser All Pro Series are right up here. We got the Chevy Camaro leading, Toyota and the Toyota Camry in second, and the Ford Fusion in third. And then you got Trent Dunham, who last time by was all the way back in 15th place, the only Dodge in the field.
Yeah, and you look at Carson Gum. He's 36th in points, so that's another driver, kind of like in the same boat as Jessica Shelton, still trying to find victory lane. But I mean, if he's able to get a checkered flag here today, that really, makes the chances of him making it into the postseason even greater.
Yeah, it would definitely be something for that 19 team. Carter Friesen, he's in the chase. I believe he has 1 win. I forgot exactly.
Yes, he does.
I forgot exactly at which track that came on, but I know he does have 1 win. And then, as you talked about, Seth Cole, 4th in the standings, highest person in the standings without a win. He's running, ironically, in 4th place, just kind of biding his time. You think maybe Seth? If you think about it, Seth Cole has nothing to lose, as well as I think a couple of people behind him in the point standings have wins.
No, you're absolutely right. The separation between Seth Cole and the next driver without a win, which would be 8th in the standings, Cole Deaver, is somewhere in the ballpark range of about 30 points. So with this consistent run here, you were mentioning the fact, if we have different race winners for the remaining final 4 races of this season, we're still going to have about 2 or 3 spots available for drivers to make it into the playoffs via points. Andrew Davis there with a nice move.
Yeah,
But you know, where Seth Cole's currently situated at, he would be in one of those positions. So, yeah, I think you're right. This is a team that could kind of go outside the box, play some pit strategy to try and get a win, and could maybe afford to roll the dice a little bit with where they're positioned.
Speaking of positions, looks like the 19 is kind of caught to the back bumper of the 94 car.
And this is the interesting thing too. When we go into the long green flag runs, and at a track especially like New Hampshire, you know, drivers will have their car set up for the short run, and they'll have their car set up for the long run. We saw a huge gap between Shelton and Carson Gum at the beginning of this green flag run. Now we see that Carson Gum and Carter Friesen have been able to run in Jessica Shelton. So, you know, I think these two cars definitely were set up for the long run. Shelton might have been set up for the short run. I think the advantage will go back to the 94 when the pit stops take place, though.
That's a good point. But I noticed, you know, and also don't forget Jessica could be saving. You know how good she is when it comes to managing her fuel. So, you know, maybe she allowed Carson to catch up a little bit, maybe give him a little bit of hope, even though she's really been saving fuel.
Very good point. I mean, you know, you don't have those long of straightaways here at New Hampshire, so the draft doesn't really come into play in terms of saving fuel. So yeah, that could be a very good point because, as I alluded to, you know, drivers out here towards the front, they're basically just trying to lay down qualifying laps because they've got clean racetrack. Drivers in the middle of the pack don't have that choice, so they may be saving fuel. And so, you know, with the fact that Shelton could be one of those drivers at a disadvantage being out in front. Ooh, look at that.
Shelton slipped up just a little bit. It's allowing the 19 of Carson Gum to get a run. But look how Jess sails it off into turn one.
Yeah, Carson Gum's got a good car in the center of the corner. I mean, you're lucky if this late into a run, you're able to, at a flat track like New Hampshire, be able to turn left and the car sticks to be on the inside on the exit of turn 2 or turn 4. Grip goes away very quickly at this kind of a racetrack, so Carson Gum's got a pretty good car, at least from the center off.
Yeah, but did you see, Jess sailed it into the corner and then left him basically in the dust.
And that's what happens here at New Hampshire, too, is that's why I alluded to at the beginning why this is a track so difficult to pass at, because as the tires go away, that outer groove tends to come in, and we saw that Shelton was able to use it going into turn 1 to keep the top position.
I'm anxious to see when the fuel strategy is going to come, or when the pit stops are going to start here.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see when it happens, because I'm thinking if we have it happen before lap 30, I don't know. We may end up seeing 2 green flag pit stops. If they're able to make it around the lap 30 mark, or maybe a little bit past lap 30, that might be our only pit stop.
Oh, the 38, something happened to the 38 car.
Down on the apron there, trying to get out of everybody's way.
Could he have run
Is he out of fuel? I think he's out of fuel.
He's come to a stop on the racetrack. He's going to probably teleport to pit road.
Now, are they going to throw a caution? It depends on where the leader is. If the leader...
Accident on the front stretch.
Oh, boy, and this is not going to be good. It's going to block the track.
Oh, my goodness. It is. The track is blocked. Now the caution's definitely going to come out.
Definitely.
Cody Smart, Kyle Matthews, Levi McIntyre, Dylan Young, maybe? No, I don't. Okay. Yeah, he has rear end damage. He definitely got.
Charles Sanford, he's got damage.
Yep. Charles Sanford, Jonathan Zornline, Cody Lamas. Kev Shear. Joshua Sekuli.
Oh, he didn't miss this one.
Uh-oh. Here's Jess. Carson looks like they're clear of everything. Comes a couple of lap cars, I guess, that were kind of stuck. They're allowing them to go by the pace car.
Yeah.
Well,
man, that 6 car took a shot into the inside wall, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's definitely safe to say that this probably has something to do with that 38 car.
Well, it might, but also, I mean, if Carter did run out of fuel, is it possible someone else ran out of fuel out of turn 4 and that's what caused the stack up in the wreck? Maybe? I don't know.
Because the field was already stacked up when they tried to get around the 38 car.
Well, that's true. Maybe it pushed it 3 wide going into the corner. We haven't seen that today.
Alright, so we're watching Jessica. Let's see who's going to be coming out of pit road. Who's going to be coming out of pit road first here.
And let's assume that Carter did run out of fuel. If that's indeed how far he was able to go on a tank of fuel, that means this is not the only pit stop we're going to see here today.
I saw the 4 come out first. I'm not entirely sure if that was
Yeah,
strategy.
was
And
he on the lead lap or not?
look at Jess. Jess is losing a lot of spots. A bunch of different
Yeah,
cars
Andrew
just
Davis,
coming
we know,
into
was
him.
on the lead lap.
Unless it was part of that glitch where maybe they just missed their pit stall, but I really hope that that's not the case. Cars
Well, they
coming out.
came out a long ways ahead. Seth Cole lost some spots, you see there.
Alright, well, as you see the cars coming out of pit lane, let's go ahead and take a look and see at what happened on the front straightaway to bring out this caution as we see the 92 car, 492. So we're looking here at Kyle Matthews. Michael Whitman was kind of stuck up on the wall, so I'm not sure entirely what happened there. As we see here, coming up off the corner, Shane Lake, I don't know if he just lost grip. Maybe he got on the gas too early or something, but he comes right up just comes right up into Kyle Matthews. Turns Kyle Matthews down into the inside wall, hard in the inside wall. Kyle, trying to get control of his car, comes right back up into the 21. I believe that's Nathan Hudson. And then the 11, Jay Jefferson, gets lucky to get away with this. Levi McIntyre had nowhere to go. Alfredo Faggio looks like he's trying to just sneak his way through here. And I mean, the way this track is just closed up quickly.
It is. It's a lot of tracks are like this when they have that pit wall separating the pit road from the racetrack, and you're right, it just blocks the track up. And also, when you think about it, we've been in such a long green flag run, the brakes might not necessarily work quite as well as they would at the start of the race. So, I bet a lot of these guys at the back of the pack, they're slammed on the brakes, but the car's just not going to stop.
This ought to be a good view. Let's watch this. Benjamin Miles, 43 car. Get on the brakes there.
I don't know which hit hurt more for Kyle Matthews, the hit into the inside wall or when he came up and got nailed by Hudson.
Yeah, sure. Let's watch from Levi's view here.
Oh, this is going to hurt.
Oh. Well, this is what happens.
Two hard hits there.
Yeah. This is what happens to bring out the first caution of the day here. Let's go back up for the restart. Alright, welcome back here to New Hampshire. We completely missed the restart because we were looking back at the wreck. Jessica Shelton still leads. We have a battle for second place here between Carter Friesen, Carson Gum, and Josh Drake. Trent Dunham has moved his way up into the top 10 here.
Yeah, the points leader all of a sudden. We hadn't talked about him at all, and after that pit stop, his team getting it done on pit road. He's now he is actually up in the top 5.
Seth Cole back here still too, but much different cars up here in the top 20.
James Qualls.
Still trying to get here as you see the 14 just retired.
Yeah, the 14 had been making multiple pit stops there under caution, and I think they finally just took it behind the wall.
As you see, the cars retired here include Benjamin Miles, who we saw get through. I guess something happened. The 9 car of who was the 9? Oh my God, it's been so long, I forgot.
That Cole Deaver?
No, it's Daniel Bouchard. The 47 of Joshua Sekuli, the 34 of Trey Wright, the 18 of O'Neal Bolvin, the 6 of Levi McIntyre, and the 21 of Nathan Hudson are all your official retirees.
48 just retired out of the race.
Oh, did he?
Yep.
The 14 to 24 and the 17 all out, and the 48 of Austin LaPlante is out as well. These guys running out of fuel on top of that stupid glitch that's on this racetrack. As you see Jess make a move underneath the lap car of Kyle Langland in the 4.
Yeah, Langland's been making multiple pit stops, but we saw him just get a 4-tire pit stop done, so I think he was possibly going to be one of those drivers that fell prey to the no-fuel glitch as well, but fortunately for him, that wasn't the case. He is off the lead lap, though.
Now, he kind of held up Shelton there, as you saw, so it allowed the 66 car to come into play, though. The 4 car is obviously going to be stuck here in the middle. Now my question is this. Unless we have another caution, do these guys have enough fuel to make it to the end?
Well, see, that's the big question. The caution came out on lap 24, 6 laps short of halfway. Yeah, we had a couple of caution laps, but I don't think even under yellow, I don't think they've been able to save enough fuel. If indeed Carter Friesen, when we saw him, pull down to the inside in the back straightaway there, if indeed he was out of fuel, he was in 3rd place at the time too. So, he had a little bit of an opportunity to save. So, if indeed the fuel window is between 24 to 25 laps, I think you're going to see these drivers have to pit somewhere within maybe 4 or 5 laps to go.
Yeah, it's very possible. Maybe we'll see somebody if they can stretch it. Look who just cracked the top 10. Dylan Poteet. Actually, he's 9th.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Poteet has had a couple of good races, last couple of races. He's now up to 15th in points. He's, I believe, like 20 points. No, I'm sorry, 13 points. Only 13 points back from top 10 in the point standings overall. And Poteet, surprisingly enough, too, he's had some consistent runs in the top 10, but that team's just not quite been where it needs to be. He's still searching for his first top 5 of the season. And maybe with this emergence here halfway through, we might be able to look at him as maybe one of those drivers that might roll the dice and try and stretch it.
Imagine if he gets the win here. He's got his teammate right in front of him. Here's Cole Deaver having a good run. Carson Gum has dropped back a little bit. He was running 2nd. Oh, and he's about to lose some more spots here.
Something's wrong with that 19. I don't know what it is, but as soon as Josh Drake got around him for 2nd, that car has faded back. It's like he can't hold the bottom now. Remember we saw that car was really good as we went into the first green flag run, so he might be waiting for the tires to come in and the adjustments to come in. Remember, he was set up for the long run, so maybe that car not so good on the short run, and he's kind of paying the price for it, dropping back, as you said, almost to the tail end of the top 10.
Yep, James Qualls up here. We're going to scroll back here. The 11 of Jay Jefferson.
He's got damage, too.
Damage, but he's up to pace. He's running 11th place.
Well, see, that's the thing about New Hampshire. New Hampshire's kind of like a Bristol, kind of like a Martinsville. You don't have to have the prettiest car. You don't really necessarily have to have the fastest car to run well here. You can have your car look like a late model. We saw the 92 came off pit road without a hood. He's still running, so, as long as that car's handling.
I don't think the 11 has damage. I think it's just a glitch.
No, he got involved, though. He had damage. He got hooked in the right rear quarter panel. I think it was by Kyle Matthews or Nathan Hudson when that wreck took place out of turn 4.
He didn't hit the wall, though. I think it's just a glitch with the graphics. So
could he have maybe made contact with someone on pit road?
Because look, you see how we're looking at the 62 and it looks like the 13 had damage? When we switched to the 13 in a different camera angle, he doesn't have damage. See?
Oh. Okay, never mind. Yeah, and the 11, his sheet metal just popped out too. Never mind, he's fine.
So sometimes it's hard to tell if these cars have damage. I mean, except for the ones that we knew were involved in the wreck, like Charles Sanford.
Yeah, we know he was in it. We know the 22 was in it.
So it's kind of just a bit of a glitch in this game, as it looks like Cole Deaver lost a couple of spots.
Yep, he faded back. He was up. Well, did he fade? No, I think he was running around that area.
He faded away and classified himself as obsolete.
Obsolete!
Now look at this. Qual's going to help Trent Dunham possibly gain
Man,
a spot.
Trent is on a charge right now.
He's going to try to move up to the 4th position. As up here, the battle's getting a little closer.
I remember Josh Drake, 2 wins, not a whole heck of a lot to lose.
Unless the 4 made another pit stop, looks like the 4 car. No, he didn't. Looks like the 4 car got around.
Did he get around the 94?
I think he did, but that could also be something that just saving fuel.
Well, remember too, Langland came off pit road after we'd gone back green, so he had a little bit fresher tires than Shelton did.
That's true as well. As we're approaching approaching about, what, 16 laps to go here?
Yep, when they hit the line.
16 to go. Can he save on fuel? Or can they make it on fuel? That's a good question.
Well, you know, I was looking back when we were seeing that side by side. I think it was between Charles Sanford and Cody Lamas. They're a little bit damaged, but they're not exactly running that poorly. I would wonder if maybe with the slower speed and the slower RPMs, if maybe they can save a little bit of fuel not running quite as fast as these leaders. So I don't know if New Hampshire is one of those tracks where something like that can happen, but it might be something to kind of store in the memory bank for when we get to the closing stages.
I'm keeping an eye on this 31 car. He's gained a couple of more spots. He's up to 7th.
Yeah, Dylan Poteet, like I said, he's been consistent, but that team just hasn't been quite where they need to be. It's looking good right now, at least. That car's set up pretty well. The only thing I would be worried about is if he's making his way through the field this well, he's obviously not holding back, so he wouldn't be saving fuel.
Shane Lake back here. Ace Garcia back here. Like you said, it's Cody Lamas. And the others. Oh, that's the 20 out of gas?
Oh, wow, problems for Emmanuel Hartnett.
Oops, wrong button.
I don't see how he could be out of fuel yet.
His car is running. I wonder if maybe there's some kind of problem on that 20 car.
It could be. That car is, like you said, it's still running. Oh, and he stopped.
And they teleported to pit lane, and they shut his engine off. At least that didn't.
They might not have gotten that car completely full of fuel on the pit stop or something. I don't know.
At least it didn't stack up the field this time.
Yeah, and the lucky thing, too, as well, was that the car teleported to pit road when it did, because if Langland and Shelton and Drake, if they had, come within close proximity of that 20 car down here into turn 1, they probably would have had to have thrown the caution.
Yeah, they might have.
So I'm really surprised there about that 20, because with the projection of when we went back green...
It stopped starting. Jessica Shelton comes to pit lane while the 66 and the 1 don't.
Okay, so this tells me that they basically got the car as full of fuel as they needed to when the 4-tire pit stop was done. They didn't completely fill the car full of fuel to avoid losing track position. So this makes it very interesting for a number of these drivers.
Yes, it will. The question is now it's going to come down to the pit crew on who's going to get out of pit road the quickest.
Drake's going to come in, so he's going to give up the lead. Looks like Trenton Quall's going to follow him.
Here comes the rest of the field. Yep, nobody's staying out. Oh, there goes the 10 and the 95, but they might be lapped
Yeah,
down.
but these guys are coming to pit road about 5 laps sooner than I was expecting. So with that being said, I honestly don't know if we're going to have anybody be able to roll the dice and make it the rest of the way. I think you're right. It's going to come down to this pit stop for everybody.
10 is the new leader. Stayed out an extra lap.
Well, William Brock's had a lot of bad luck on his side here this season. He knows he's going to be leaving New Hampshire no longer dead last in the points with Kyle Matthews out of well, he's not out of the race, but he's damaging off the pace.
All it takes is 2 tires, and all it's going to probably take is 2 tires or just a splash and go like I think he just did.
I think he'll need more than a splash. He might need a can. Maybe half. You might be able to make it on half a can here at New Hampshire. A splash, that's cutting it close.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. As you see, he just came in and stopped and took off. Unless he got the pit road glitch.
Now I'm trying to look at the leaderboard here, and I'm not seeing the 94 there. But of course, she came to pit road earlier, so we're gonna have to wait and see where she cycles in relation to Josh Drake and Trent Dunham.
Could be Seth Cole.
Seth Cole's ahead of the 66.
Let's see. Will the 10 car come back to pit?
He's ahead of the 94 as well. Seth Cole is. That's 19 seconds behind Brock.
Is Brock going to come back to pit lane?
I don't know. Brock. Oh wow.
I don't think he was able to stop in his pit stall. I think he got the pit road glitch.
And that explains why he was 19 seconds ahead of Seth Cole then as well.
Well, he's definitely doing something now.
Yeah, Cole's the leader now. Over Shelton. Cole Deaver's up to 3rd.
Where's the 98? Right here. There's the 98. Seth Cole. He is the leader now. turn of events, not rigged at all, ladies and gentlemen.
No, no. I mean, how do you rig a 60-lap race? Honestly.
Well, we got 7 laps to go, and Seth Cole is leading. Shelton fighting with Emmanuel Hartnett right now for third.
Looks like she's going to clear him. Now remember, Shelton was really good on the short run on that first green flag run, so with only 6 laps to go and we hit the stripe next time by, that gap between the 98 and the 94 may close up.
Look who's in 10th place.
How is Charles Sanford up here in the top 10?
That's some good pit strategy.
Man. Trying to get by Carson Gum, who's trying to stay in the top 10. He's had a strong car today, but it's faded away as this race is gone.
Faded away and classified itself as obsolete.
Obsolete.
As it seems like that's what happened with the 10 car. He is still on pit lane. Probably a black flag from the NNSCRA officials. But we got 5 laps to go, and Seth Cole is still leading 1.3 seconds ahead of Jessica Shelton.
Yeah, he gained 0.2 in the last 2 laps over the 94. So Shelton, after clearing Emmanuel Hartnett, has not been able to make up ground on the 98 Chevy Camaro.
All right, let's see. Seth Cole crosses the line. He ran a 27.627. Oops, wrong button. Jessica Shelton ran a 27.893.
Yeah, 0.2 slower, and you see that on the running order there as well. What was 1.38 now I believe it's 6.2.
Seth Cole, we all know how good he is when it comes to fuel mileage. He tends to sneak them out of nowhere. As he takes 3 laps to go. A caution right now would probably save him and guarantee him the win, but I don't think he would want to win that way, as Jessica gained on him just a little bit, about a tenth that time, but it's not going to be enough.
And we talked about Charles Sanford. How about Cole Deaver up there in the 3rd position? What a great run for the 3. He was up in the top 10 after the first pit stop.
Cole Deaver is not in the 3. He's in the 88. He's in 6th.
Oh, well, he's still in the top. Cole Deaver in the 88.
No, Paul Minnick is in the 3 in my series.
Paul Minnick's in the 3. Yes, that's right. See, I haven't done this in a while either.
2 laps to go. Seth Cole is still leading this race. He's definitely got a... like you said, he came into this race 4th in points without a win. As he takes the white flag, that could all change in 1 lap.
Well, what did you say? You said being as high as he was in the points, he could maybe afford pit strategy and try and go for a win. That's exactly what he did.
Yep. He's the 2nd driver out of Richard Petty Motorsports. The number 98. Beyond Two Souls?
Yep.
Beyond Two Souls, Chevrolet Camaro comes off of turn number 4, and Seth Cole is going to get his first win of the season in the Budweiser All-Pro Series, guaranteeing his spot in the chase.
This is also going to be very interesting in terms of the point standings as well, because we saw Andrew Davis had issues today. Joshua Zakuli was in the wreck. Trent Dunham had a good run there in the top 10, but Seth Cole was only 11 points behind him.
He managed to climb his way back up into the top 10 as well.
Yep. So I think the point standings will still be very close heading into Texas World.
That's very true. As you see, we're looking at Shane Lake here. All right, we're going to go look at Seth do his burnout. We'll be right back with the results. Well, Seth Cole now celebrating in victory lane as we're taking a look at the official race results here. Jessica Shelton, heartbreak in 2nd place after leading almost every lap, which is very, very surprising. Paul Minnick in 3rd. James Qualls rounds out with a good top 5 finish of the day. Josh Drake in 5th. Cole Deaver 6th. Tony Green 7th. Jake Smith in 8th. Carson Gum 9th. And Trent Dunham rallied his way back into a top 10 finish.
Absolutely right. And, you know, I look here at drivers like Shelton, like Minnick, like Qualls. Yeah, they wanted to win, but as we get closer here towards the end of the season, consistency also matters just as much as wins. So, I mean, with Shelton coming into this race 22nd in points, this is going to gain her a good chunk in the point standing. She's going to jump up there pretty well, maybe up into the top 15 in points. And, you know, with good runs in the upcoming weeks, maybe could grab one of those spots in the playoffs on points. You never know.
Yep, that's very possible. Patrick Smith, Jonathan Zornline with damage. Charles Sanford in 13th with damage. Jay Jefferson, Dylan Poteet dropped back a couple of spots. He'll finish 15th. As we look at the rest of the finishing results, Alexander Rowe, Dylan Young, Ace Garcia, Johnny Gardner, Kev Shear round out your top 20. Kyle Matthews, Kev Shear beat Kyle Matthews. Boy, I wonder how that's going to go down. Shane Lake, Cody Lamas, and Cody Smart round out the cars that finished on the lead lap. Then you got Alfredo Faggio, Carter Friesen, who had that weird issue in the beginning of the race. Emmanuel Hartnett, Igor Berto, and William Brock round out the cars that actually were still on the racetrack. Then you got Kyle Langland, Michael Whitman, Andrew Davis, Elijah Gordon, Jordan Lopez, Austin LaPlante, Benjamin Miles, Daniel Bouchard, Joshua Sekuli, Trey White, O'Neal Baldwin, Levi McIntyre, and Nathan Hudson round out the rest of the field.
I just got a text from all of the Budweiser All Pro Series drivers. They want to rename this next year to the Boycott Sunoco 400.
Yeah. And I guess I do have to extend an apology for those who finished with no fuel because of the way this track is set.
It's just the way the track works, guys. There's nothing that can be done about it.
Like I said, if any of you guys have an actual better New Hampshire race that doesn't have that glitch, then feel free to send it to me, and I will use it the next time I go here. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and congratulations to Seth Cole, not rigged at all, that he won.
Not rigged at all.
That he won this race, and he's up here in the booth with me. Seth, thank you for joining me. Glad to actually see you make a full race rather than color commentating and then having to leave halfway through.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. I just realized that is the first time in quite a while. I think the last time I was actually there for the whole race was during the All-Star race. So, yeah, glad I was able to finish out a full race as well.
No, you weren't even there for the full race in the All-Star race. You were able to finish it out, but you weren't there for the full race. Remember,
what was it? Was it the Open then that I was there for the whole race? It was something that I was with you and Charles. I don't remember.
It was the All-Star race. It was me, you, and Nathan Hudson, but you came in after the first segment.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I'm a party crasher. What can I say?
All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining me. The points will be shown right after this video. Seth, thank you for joining me. We'll see you guys next week at Texas World.
I can eat my chips now, thank God!
This is Michael Norman saying, until we meet again. Well, congratulations, Seth.
Yay!
I'll be honest, I was not expecting that. I was expecting somebody else to comment about
I mean, how can you rig a 60-lap race? It just with the pit stop.